Tornadoes, severe hail, and flooding. What to expect the rest of tonight and into tomorrow.
6 dogs are dead after training at a conservation area in Salt Lake City. We'll tell you why the area is now closed for the indefinite future.
The immediate family members and loved ones who have no resolution or closure.
Nearly 3 decades after a woman was found dead in her West Valley City home, her husband has been charged with her murder.
Some of these people entering Zion National Park are going to need help getting out.
There's over 1,000 saves every single year, and that save means those 1,000 people probably would have died.
We'll tell you the numbers behind search and rescues in the national parks.
And one of former President Donald Trump's biggest rivals makes it official. Who's running for the White House in 2024?
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Severe hail battered Burley, Idaho today, damaging vehicles before leaving the town with flash flooding concerns. And to our west, 2 tornadoes touched down in Elko County, Nevada this afternoon. The National Weather Service tells us they have not received any reports of any injuries or damage from those twisters today. But I'll tell you what, Allison, they were impressive.
Absolutely. So we saw these a little after 1 o'clock today in Elko County, Nevada. So 2 confirmed tornadoes touching down, and one crossed SR 229 and the other was south of Halleck. This is right near I-80 between Elko and Wells, off to our west of Wendover. With this, also just a lot of severe activity across the region. This is up in Burley, Idaho. I do want to show you what kind of damage this caused to Mac's car right here. Mac Powell, thank you so much for sending these pictures and videos in from that hail in Idaho this evening and afternoon. What we're watching for you into tomorrow is still some scattered storms in the forecast across the state, but we are not expecting the storms to be as intense as they were today as we head into tomorrow. We could see some isolated severe activity, but we're not expecting as much as we saw today across the Intermountain West. Right now across far northern Utah, we do have a few areas of rain moving through just southwest of Willard right now off of the Great Salt Lake. A lot of rain Logan Canyon up towards Garden City up at Bear Lake. I-80 near I-80 up into Wyoming. We do still have areas of rain coming down near Evanston. And across southern Utah, we've mainly had a drying trend. So over the next couple of hours, we're going to keep our temperatures in the 60s. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, a mild start, more widely scattered storm activity for tomorrow, though. We'll talk more about what to expect heading into a holiday weekend coming up.
Allison, thanks so much. 6 dogs are dead after training at a wildlife conservation area in Salt Lake City. The Lee K Wildlife Conservation and Dog Training Area is now closed to the public until further notice. Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us what officials believe could have killed the animals.
There's really nowhere we have any state around here that has anything close to what we have at Lee K.
Lee K Conservation Area is one of the only places around where dog owners like Eric Fryer can train retrievers.
Whether you're training a dog for just to be a hunting dog or you want to go to the top levels of competition, you got to have that. You got to have water, and you got to have clean water to teach them to swim, to teach them to do whatever we need them to do.
According to the Utah Division of Wildlife Resources, over the weekend, 6 dogs training in the area were vomiting and had diarrhea, then experienced kidney and liver failure and did not survive.
The dog owner had reported observing some of the dogs eating kind of a crusty salt-like layer on some of the grass near the edge of the water.
The DWR has closed off the entire conservation area to the public until they can confirm the cause of death of the 6 dogs.
Scientists said there was no visual evidence of a harmful algal bloom on the water at that point, but they did say it looked like there was some growth, which they think is likely composed of cyanobacteria on some of those grasses along the shoreline of the pond.
The Wasatch Hunting Retriever Club had to cancel its annual Memorial Day weekend test event, which Fryer says more than 300 dogs were registered for.
I've been going to Lee K since the mid-90s, 95, 96, somewhere in there. And currently I'm out there probably 4 or 5 days a week. I've never had an issue with any of my dogs.
Utah Division of Water Quality researchers are still waiting on results of their tests. The area will remain closed out of an abundance of caution. In Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
3 people are dead and 2 others hospitalized after a crash on I-15 near Far West last night. The Utah Highway Patrol says it happened at about 2:45 this morning when a red Nissan Altima hit a deer in the left northbound lane. The driver pulled over to the right and was hit by a semi-truck from behind. The 3 backseat passengers were killed. They have been identified as a 70-year-old man and a 64-year-old woman, both from Enid, Oklahoma, and a 17-year-old girl from the Marshall Islands. The driver and front passenger were transported to the hospital in serious condition. Unified Police say a 26-year-old man is dead after falling about 100 feet in Big Cottonwood Canyon. They say the victim's girlfriend called for help just before 12:30 this afternoon. He was climbing in what's known as the outer corner in Big Cottonwood Canyon. It's unknown why he fell. They did say he was properly equipped. The Utah County Sheriff's Office is looking for 2 teen boys who were caught on surveillance video breaking into and damaging the Culinary Water Booster Station in Elk Ridge. This happened on the night of May 12th. One of the teens appeared to be wearing a beanie over his face as well as a walking cast. The other teen wore a hoodie. The Sheriff's Office says the damage from this incident adds up to between $400 and $500. If you know who these boys are, email Deputy Allison Monson at allisonm@utahcounty.gov. Nearly 3 decades ago, a woman was found dead in her West Valley City home. Tonight, her husband is charged with her murder. The Salt Lake County District Attorney filed a first-degree murder charge against 68-year-old Keith Klingenberg in the death of his wife, Bernadine. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with Sim Gill today about the decades-long case.
On June 11th, 1995,
he just told us that he arrived here shortly after 1 o'clock.
This was the scene.
Found her dead, laying on the bed.
In West Valley City.
In the bedroom. He attempted to provide CPR and first aid. He was unsuccessful.
According to court documents, Keith Klingenberg called 911 after returning home from playing softball, saying that his wife had committed suicide by slashing her throat. Documents state Klingenberg told dispatchers his 44-year-old wife Bernadine was not conscious. He also made statements indicating that she was trying to fight him and get up. EMS would arrive on scene about 7 minutes after he made that 911 call.
But when they arrived down there, they also noticed that there are some inconsistencies in terms of the coagulation of the blood, the paleness of the skin. Subsequent ME examination indicates that she had died maybe 1 to 2 hours earlier than the time that was being reported in terms of the emergency call.
While the cause of death was originally undetermined, West Valley City Police reopened the case in 2016 as a homicide investigation.
One of the surviving childs of Bernadine, Aaron, had also raised concerns that she had also indicated that her mom was not known to be suicidal.
According to the court documents, Bernadine's daughter, who was interviewed in 1995 and again in 2018, stated her mom had told her the night before that she was planning on leaving her former stepfather. A doctor with the Utah Medical Examiner's Office found 10 stabbing injuries on Bernadine that were deemed inconsistent with it being a suicidal act, according to the court documents. On Wednesday, the Salt Lake County District Attorney filing first-degree murder charges against Keith. The DA says he spoke with Bernadine's daughter after an arrest was made in her mother's death 28 years later.
This matter that had been lingering left an open wound for them for such a long period of time. It was, of course, understandably a very emotional call, but I think, and also some relief for them.
Definitely an emotional day for family members. I did reach out to Bernadine's daughter earlier today, but she said she was not ready to speak at this time. As for Keith, he has been booked into the Salt Lake County Metro Jail and is currently being held without bail. In Salt Lake, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
This season's flash floods are adding to the already dangerous Utah terrain that so many people love to explore. Julie Kilgore, president of the Wasatch Mountain Club, says since COVID, trails have been busier with more people discovering the Utah outdoors. While this is great, she says there are things people of all experience levels need to keep in mind, such as packing essentials and researching the terrain before you hike.
Things change when you get out of the urban environment and into more the wilderness and backcountry environment. The risks go up.
What happened? She says, especially with slot canyons, flash floods can come out of nowhere. She says people should constantly be checking the weather, even if it's miles away. She adds that if a certain hike seems too risky, don't take chances and try it another time when you feel more prepared. Well, a little more than a week ago, we reported on a man riding a lawnmower from border to border in Utah at 7 miles an hour. He was raising money for the Ronald McDonald House. Well, we had a crew shooting a different story near the Arizona border in Kanab today, and they happened to see Scott Morgan on the last leg of his 10-day trip. So they flagged him down, and he gave us an update. At about noon, they had only 10 miles left on what Morgan says was a treacherous journey through blistering sun and rain, but it was for a great cause, to help support families with sick children in their time of need.
So happy to be helping Ronald McDonald House. So happy that people have been so generous. So tired. Enjoying the scenery though, and it'll be good to be off a lawnmower.
Morgan says they are struggling to meet their goal this year. They're just $2,500 short of the $200,000 goal from the donations gathered in his 3 years of riding from Idaho to Arizona on that lawnmower there. The good news is you still have time to help. We have a link on our website at fox13now.com.
It's been a year since the tragedy in Uvalde. Did that spark any changes here in Utah? I have more for you coming up.
Tonight, we'll show you why the Ogden City Council is standing by a system that some lawmakers call an illegal police quota.
I've found this confidence in the box that I didn't necessarily have in the first half of the season.
Carly Davidson's getting hot at the right time for the Utah softball team. We'll hear from the freshman slugger coming up.
I'm Ron DeSantis, and I'm running for president to lead our great American comeback.
People have been speculating for a long time, but now it is official. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is making a run for the White House. He announced it in this video posted to Twitter today. That was before a live stream discussion with Twitter CEO Elon Musk. While DeSantis is considered the biggest rival to former President Donald Trump, he is not the only GOP hopeful vying for the presidency. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott announced his run on Monday. The Queen of Rock and Roll, Tina Turner, has died. Her manager says she passed away at her home in Switzerland after a long illness. Turner was born Anna Mae Bullock in rural Tennessee in 1939. She entered show business at the age of 17 when she partnered with singer and future husband Ike Turner. Turner had countless hit songs, most notably What's Love Got to Do With It? Tina Turner was 83 years old. This is a live look at Uvalde, Texas tonight, where there are flowers and yellow balloons in front of what used to be Robb Elementary School. This is about an hour and a half west of San Antonio. It was on this day 1 year ago that a mass shooter killed 21 people, 19 students and 2 teachers. 17 others were injured but survived. Today, President Joe Biden delivered a speech in remembrance mentioning how common mass shootings are in the U.S. The president pleaded for Congress to pass gun safety laws.
And over the last year since Uvalde, our country has experienced a staggering 650 mass shootings.
He says he believes the country needs to ban AR-15 weapons. Fox 13 News anchor Robin Oginye was working in Texas and reported live from Uvalde when the shootings happened a year ago. Tonight, she takes a look at whether there have been any changes in gun laws here in Utah since then.
That's right. I was working in San Antonio at the time, and Uvalde headlined all of our shows for months. It did spark a national conversation about gun laws and what could and couldn't be legally reformed. Many gun laws are mandated at the state level, not the federal level. I wanted to talk to the Gun Violence Prevention Center of Utah to see what, if any, changes have been made here in the past year. They tell me, like other states have had discussions, they'd like to hear more consideration to raise the age to buy guns from 18 to 21. As for other changes, they say there's been little movement in Utah.
There were so many little bills that ran related to firearms in the last legislative session. But all of them were optional things, and they were all things where, as part of the legislation, there was no mechanism to track, oh, if we're giving people this option, is anyone taking advantage of it?
She also mentioned that making changes to the legal age to purchase a firearm would not address every instance of mass shooting in the U.S., but it could have prevented many of the mass shootings we've seen. The Gun Violence Prevention Center of Utah encourages constituents to write to their legislators more than once if they want to make gun safety reform a priority. Robin Oginye, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We've had some strong storms here across the region today. Severe hail, even tornadoes over into Elko, Nevada. And for tomorrow, we continue with the chance for a few areas of isolated flash flooding, primarily in far northwest Utah, northeast Nevada, Elko, all the way up through Twin Falls and into southern Idaho. So for tomorrow, we do have more widely scattered storm chances here across the state, but we have less of a chance for those storms to turn severe like we saw earlier today. I do want to give you a heads up if you're just now joining us for the first time today. We have a new flood warning that's been issued. This is for the Logan River near Logan until late Friday morning. So down from Logan Canyon right here, flood watch along the Bear River below Hiram Reservoir through June 15th. That continues as an aerial flood watch. A flood advisory for the Bear River at Corinne until further notice. Over towards eastern Rich County, we do have a flood warning for the Bear River, and that goes until June 2nd. Down towards Huntsville, a flood warning for the South Fork of the Ogden River through May 30th near Huntsville. Over towards Plain City, a flood watch for the lower Weber River until further notice. Green River near Jensen, we do also have a flood advisory there, plus near Duchesne for the Duchesne River, just south of Roosevelt. That goes until further notice. Down towards Cisco and Moab, a flood advisory for the Colorado River until further notice, and a flood warning for the Sevier River near Panguitch and Hatch until further notice in southwest Utah. So right now, a live look from Intermountain facing north. Still very cloudy here along the Wasatch Front. 60s through much of the evening. And we continue to see a few areas of rain. A lot of rain still coming down along I-80 up into Evanston, southwest Wyoming. A little bit of lightning on the leading edge of that. We're continuing to see a little bit of activity, Wendover up through Idaho across Box Elder County, and then down through central Utah. We had a little bit of rain that moved through from Castledale up through Duchesne right now. Tabiona, wow. You guys had reports of hail today of $half size. That is 1.25 inches in diameter. And once you start getting more than 3/4 of an inch in diameter for hail, that's when you start running into the potential for property damage, roof damage, car damage, all of that. So we had severe hail across the state today up into Burley, Idaho. A lot of hail into Nevada, where we had the 2 tornadoes that touched down near Elko. Temps right now here across the state, mainly 50s and 60s here across Utah. We continue with temperatures that'll be rather mild tonight, 50s and 60s when you wake up tomorrow morning. And for Salt Lake, our temperatures will rise close to 80 degrees again. Near 90 in St. George through the next week. Memorial Day weekend looks really nice for far southern Utah, but things will obviously be hot. For the Wasatch Front, we are going to be about 75 to 85 for the next week. We'll talk more about our storm chances as they continue through the next week, coming up in just a little bit. We'll be right back.
We have breaking news in West Valley City. Multiple police agencies have closed down eastbound 4100 South at Bangerter Highway. Unified Police tell us here at Fox 13 News the U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team is on scene for a police incident. They have not described what that is. We don't have much more information than that, but this is a live look at that area right now. Of course, we have a crew headed that way, and we will keep gathering information and bring it to you in updates here on the air and online at fox13now.com. Lori Vallow Daybell's sentencing has been set for July 31st. It will take place at the Fremont County Courthouse in St. Anthony, Idaho. Earlier this month, the jury found her guilty of murdering her children, J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, and conspiring to murder her husband's previous wife, Tammy Daybell. The death penalty is not on the table, but Vallow Daybell could get life in prison.
This guy's definitely sitting down and waving for help.
Every year, nationwide, thousands of people want to have a great day in the national parks, instead wind up having one of the worst days of their lives.
At the skid, coming up over.
We'll talk with search and rescue personnel here in Zion National Park and tell you what you can do to avoid trouble.
Some Utah lawmakers call it an illegal police ticket quota. But tonight, the Ogden City Council is standing by their system anyway. We'll show you why.
Salt Lake City inches closer to submitting a formal bid to host another Olympics.
Davis and Fremont needed overtime to decide the winner in the 6A semifinals for boys lacrosse. We'll have their highlights coming up.
Give me a little bit of forward.
You just see a lot of people coming here, and for some of them, they have the worst day of their life.
There, I got him.
More than 4 million visitors a year pass the gates here at Zion National Park. Some of them will get hurt and need help. Hiking, climbing, horseback riding, canyoneering.
One of my tips to stay alive, one, don't fall.
It's a problem throughout the national parks. Nationwide, rangers now perform thousands of searches and rescues a year.
And there he is again, 3 o'clock low.
Has the Park Service done a good enough job preventing search and rescues and accidents?
No, and I don't know anybody in the world that really has.
I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Nate Carlisle. Here's how visitors are getting in trouble in the national parks and what it's costing taxpayers.
The last 30 years I've been coming to Zion. I'm not the best climber, I'm not a bad climber either.
Tell me if you could.
When Daniel Stee isn't climbing in Zion National Park,
Show me the things.
He's playing music around it under the name Daniel Isle Sky. The noise from those helicopter blades were a ballad for Stee after a climb in 2020.
I was down about 200 feet when the way my climbing partner says it, the rope flipped around the bush or it broke, I don't know which, and I started swinging. I swung around the corner into a corner, a wall. Broke my hip, it turns out, completely in half.
Stee spent the night on a ledge. That helicopter lowered him the next morning. He's not the only person to need a lift in a national park.
Hey man, what happened?
Park rangers rescue injured visitors every week.
The Park Service in 2022 performed 3,400 search and rescues. Everything from a child who goes lost and is found within a few minutes.
Coming up over. All right, hoist safety coming on.
To this snowy rescue out of a canyon in Zion back in January.
Gonna bring this guy.
I'd rather call it a challenge for the National Park Service.
Bowling Green State University professor Travis Heggie studies deaths and injuries in the national parks. And he's found among federal agencies, only the Coast Guard performs more rescues.
There's over 1,000 saves every single year, and that save means if the Park Service wasn't there in some shape or form to do a search and rescue operation, those 1,000 people probably would have died.
Things like ankles and knees being twisted or broken.
Zion's chief ranger, Daniel Fagergren, oversees one of the busiest parks for rescues.
We see people getting sick, hyperthermia when temps reach above 100 degrees.
We all pay the bill. The Park Service doesn't charge individuals for rescues.
National Park Service has been paying out about $6 to $7 million a year in search and rescue costs.
Yeah, I see that gear.
But Hagee says searches and rescues are more expensive than that.
Look up high. I wonder if they've scrambled up to try to signal.
The figure doesn't include things like rangers who have to stop what they're doing to go help.
People that are maybe working on a trail one moment, and the next minute they're helping carry a litter and saving a life.
Tennessee Army National Guardsmen from the 1st of 169th Medevac Unit.
Or when the military is called in.
The National Park Service called the unit to assist because they were already conducting 2 other rescues.
This is footage from 2016 of the Tennessee National Guard hoisting a man from Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Even donors chip in. Volunteers in Utah raised $60,000 for a rescue vehicle serving Arches and Canyonlands National Parks.
Usually with Zion National Park, any of their major rescues, I do get a notification on.
Daryl Cashin commands rescues for the Washington County Sheriff's Office.
There are times they'll get so many rescues, they'll go, hey, can you handle this one? And we will send a team and go handle it.
While the Park Service sometimes helps on big rescues near the park, the Sheriff's Office is otherwise not reimbursed for responding to lost and injured visitors to Zion.
I would say that 70 to 80% of all our rescues are on BLM, National Forest Service, Zion National Park. They're all kind of federal lands. And so I think a program that could help reimburse the counties for some of that would be welcome.
There you go.
A week after we visited Zion, the Park Service in Washington County had to rescue a Canadian visitor swept down the Virgin River. Emergency responders revived her with CPR. A helicopter flew her to a hospital.
Hi, my name is Kat. These are the 10 essentials that you need to plan to pack for every hike.
The National Park Service has tried to keep visitors from harm with videos like this one. There's also a few signs in the parks with safety warnings. But when we scan National Parks homepages, safety information is usually confined to weather forecasts. Visitors have to go to a pull-down menu with about a dozen options to find safety tips that explain the urgency of the problem.
It'll be more effective if they receive a message before they even arrive in the park, at home, on your website, in the planning stages of your trip.
Hagee did his PhD work at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park and says such an education program there greatly reduced serious accidents.
Bring some extra water bottles or bring a better pair of shoes and be prepared for your experience. Chances are that will reduce the number of search and rescue incidents.
Day hikers and boaters are the groups most likely to need rescue. But over the years, the parks have allowed...
No, I did not think I would ever break my hip and need a helicopter rescue.
...more and more extreme athletes like Steve. For that group, he sees search and rescue figures tied to increased visitation in the parks.
Climbing is not safe. It's never meant to be.
In Zion National Park...
But that's also not to mean it's quote, dangerous, stay away.
Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Boy. Nate joins us now here in studio. My goodness, it's stunning and it's beautiful. You can see why so many people want to get out and enjoy that. Do we know which parks have the most rescues?
Yes, there's what I call the search and rescue triangle. Grand Canyon National Park, Zion National Park, and Lake Mead National Recreation Area, which is also a Park Service unit. Those are the big three for search and rescues. Then Yosemite, Yellowstone, Arches, and Canyonlands kind of fill out the rest.
Yeah. Now you mentioned in the piece 3,400 rescues. How many people die each year?
The Park Service has been averaging 200 to 300 deaths a year. It should be pointed out those aren't just strictly like recreational deaths. I mean, car crashes happen in the national parks too, for example. And but it is a problem in the national parks, and it is tied to visitation and the people wanting to get out and go do things.
Yeah. Yeah, now you also mentioned the cost of the rescue. Why is it that search and rescue doesn't bother to charge for rescues?
This is kind of a philosophy across the country, or the search and rescue, local, national, whatever. They would rather people call for help when they need it instead of thinking about getting the bill later.
All right. Well, Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle, thanks for joining us here in the studio, and a great story.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, coming up, we have new comments from Ogden Mayor Mike Caldwell on the police department's so-called point system, which some Utah lawmakers call an illegal ticket quota.
People can call it a quota, people can call it a lot of things, but I think that we've been very open and transparent with that.
If there's something that we're doing wrong for some reason, I can't fathom it.
The city of Ogden is doubling down on what some Utah lawmakers call an illegal police quota. Last week, we showed you how state senators, representatives, and police officers say Ogden is breaking the law by treating drivers like a piggy bank. But last night, Mayor Mike Caldwell and City Council said they're proud of Police Chief Eric Young and the point system he's using to get officers to write tickets. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz picks up the story.
2 for a 40-hour week. That's it. 2 tickets in a 40-hour week, and it's not a quota.
Ogden Police Chief Eric Young gave a passionate speech to his mayor and city council on Tuesday night, explaining why he thinks there is nothing wrong with the way he holds officers accountable for the number of tickets they write.
I'm pretty happy with it. I think there's got to be that accountability.
City leaders say the presentation worked, but current and former lawmakers disagreed. They say it's an illegal quota, something they banned in 2018.
As I read the law, I don't think it could be any more clear.
One of them texted me in the middle of the meeting, and he said that you and the rest of your city council is complicit. What do you think about that?
I don't know that I can answer that.
We want people in Ogden that really want to be here and do that kind of work.
Mayor Mike Caldwell said he felt the city should get more credit for being transparent about its point system, which rewards officers based on the number of tickets they write.
The minimum standard is 2 tickets per 40 hours of work. That's a pretty low bar.
Whether it's a low bar or a high bar, how is 2 tickets a week not considered a quota?
I don't think it is at all.
Officers get twice as many points for a ticket than a warning. The chief said he discourages warnings because his data shows they don't make roads safer. Even some who might agree with that point referred to the chief's speech as a performance to get around an otherwise illegal quota.
What I mean by performance is the mental gymnastics that it took for him to try to convince everybody that what he's doing as a point system is not a quota system. From now on, when I get pulled over, if I get a ticket, I'm gonna know it's because that officer is looking at his career. He's looking to build up points to get incentives, to get promoted, to get more pay, and I don't believe that's correct.
We showed you this same graph last week. It shows data from last year. Ogden making more money per capita in fines and forfeitures than any other large city in Utah. But the mayor says Ogden's point system has nothing to do with revenue. Tomorrow, we'll show you how more than 110 law enforcement agencies across Utah all say they don't use quotas, tickets, points, or anything similar to evaluate officers. For now, reporting in studio, Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming up, there is new progress on the push to bring the Winter Olympics back to Utah. We'll show you.
Carly Davidson swinging a hot bat at the right time for the Utah softball team. We'll get to know the freshman slugger coming up in sports. And Davis and Fremont played a great game in 6A boys lacrosse semifinal. The highlights are on the way.
A big step has been taken in Salt Lake City's effort to host another Winter Olympics. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow explains what happened today.
At a meeting here at the Salt Lake City and County building, the group working on the bid for the next Winter Olympics finalized plans.
Which is all the thousands of pages we put together. It's pretty much ready, and it was approved to be able to be submitted to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So that's a huge step forward, and we're very excited about that.
It's logistics, infrastructure, venues, and the plan for the games themselves.
It looked like an incredibly detailed plan
use of facilities, how many tickets are possible, the schedule of events even.
Nearly everything is ready to go.
We have a few more contracts that we're looking to get finalized, and again, continually just refining our submission.
Salt Lake City is among those still working out infrastructure and logistics agreements.
There's public security, there's citywide functions. There would be a lot more people, as we know from the last time we hosted the games, and those kind of basic city services are contracts that we will work out.
Part of the committee's plan involves the community.
Together, elevate our communities, sport, and the games experience. We're very excited about that.
Giving Salt Lake City an advantage in a bid is the fact that we successfully hosted the 2002 games. All of the venues are intact. The Utah State Legislature approved money to help refresh them. There's also still a lot of public support for a future Olympics.
We're at 82% is our most recent poll, and I think a lot of that is because at our existing venues that we have, we really try to make sure that we embrace the community in conjunction with those Olympic and Paralympic athletes and that high performance.
Salt Lake City is bidding to host either the 2030 or 2034 Winter Olympics. A formal bid will be submitted to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee by the end of this year. Then the International Olympic Committee will pick a host city.
This calendar year, we should know with much greater certainty which games we could be awarded and how confident we can feel.
Our bid is so strong, we are extremely confident we'll get a games either in 30 or 34.
In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, if you're just now joining us, getting ready for bed, and you're wondering what was happening today weather-wise across the region, we do want to let you know there were 2 confirmed tornadoes near Elko, Nevada this afternoon. One crossed SR 229 and the other was south of Halleck. So between Elko and Wells, right near I-80, both in rural areas. The National Weather Service in Elko says no reports of any injuries or any damage, but they're hoping to have more information tomorrow to confirm the strength and size of those tornadoes. But they were in rural areas, so they say it might be difficult to get exact measurements just because they were in those rural areas. So this evening, we still have a little bit of rain coming down Box Elder County. Our severe threat for the most part is over across the state. We're still seeing some areas of heavy rainfall to moderate rainfall, though, up towards Evanston, near Bear Lake, up towards the Idaho border. A little bit of moderate to heavier rain just southwest of Snowville. Down into southern Utah, we've had a bit of a drying trend there. So our chance of precipitation for Salt Lake and also for Ogden, isolated now through about 3 a.m. Provo, you're looking at unlikely chances during the overnight hours. Unlikely for most of the Wasatch Front for the morning drive tomorrow. Then we'll see increasing chances throughout the day again tomorrow after lunch for Salt Lake, Provo, and Ogden. Temperatures early tomorrow morning, about 55 to 65 here across the state. It will rise tomorrow about 70 to 80 degrees for much of Utah, plus or minus a few degrees by Thursday at 5 p.m. Same sort of trend where we've got a chance for some stronger storms to develop through central and northern Nevada and up into Wyoming. But we'll also have some widely scattered storms here across the state for tomorrow, mainly for central and northern Utah. Now, our threat for storms tomorrow is not as high as it was today for the severity of what we saw today. We saw some severe hail in Tabiona. So in northeastern Utah, we saw severe hail up in southern Idaho near Burley, damaging cars. And we're going to continue with just active weather throughout the forecast. So for Ogden, widely scattered storms pretty much every afternoon now, becoming a little more isolated for Sunday and Memorial Day. But for Provo, we'll continue with on and off storm chances Thursday, Friday, a little bit lower this weekend. And for St. George, you have a dry 7-day forecast. So our 7-day forecast for St. George, close to 90 degrees, overnight temperatures in the 60s. And for the Wasatch Front, we've got daytime highs around 75 to 85 for the next week. Widely scattered Thursday, Friday, Saturday, isolated for Sunday and Tuesday. But we are going to keep things rather warm as we head into the first week of June.
The Utah softball team's been to the NCAA tournament 17 times, but they've never hosted a super regional until now. And their freshman shortstop is playing a big role in their success. Here's Fox 13's Morgan Vance.
It's been leaving the yard.
Davison clobbers it. She does it again.
And leaving in Groves.
The 11th of the year for Carly Davison. That gives her the
team lead as a freshman. 4 home runs over her first 42 games certainly wasn't bad. And then something simply clicked.
Wow, this ball spanked Davison, hits it into the bleachers.
With 7 jacks over her last 9. So I gotta ask, did you start doing something different at the plate?
I just mostly found my groove, and I've found this confidence in the box that I didn't necessarily have in the first half of the season. And so I've just gone up there, not thinking a whole lot and just being an athlete.
Which is in her blood, this prodigy from Southern California, growing up in and around baseball. Both her grandfathers played in the bigs, as did her dad, Scott, drafted in the 4th round by the Montreal Expos back in the 80s.
There's just a lot of baseball, softball in my family, so it was pretty natural for me. Wiffle ball in the house, the whole deal.
Did you have full faith and trust in this freshman from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, we were bought in. There isn't a better kid to invest in through the ups and downs. That's what it's about. Freshmen, you need time sometimes, and we like the way she runs the infield. So if it takes her a little while to settle, which it did, then that's fine. Because she's someone that we'll invest in for a lot of years.
Davison says the choice to be a Ute was easy. She saw the writing on the wall.
I fell in love with the coaching staff and the players, and I've always wanted to play in the Pac-12, so I just knew I wanted to go here and make an impact.
Of which she'll need to continue to do to keep this run going. The Utes host a best-of-3 Super Regional against San Diego State beginning on Friday.
As soon as she got her timing with Coach DJ with her hitting, then there's no looking back. So it's been fun to watch.
Morgan Vance.
Another home run for Carly Davison.
Fox 13 Sports.
High school boy lacrosse, Corner Canyon won the first 6A semifinal, and Davison Fremont played in the second semifinal. This game went back and forth. Ashton Wood with it for Davis here. To Emmett Rice, who fires and scores a goal, 1-0 Darts. Back came the Silver Wolves. Boston Reeves rips a perfectly placed shot in there for a goal. Then it's Davis Searley. Great move and goal for the Silver Wolves. Fremont won it 17-16 in overtime. So it's Fremont and Corner Canyon in the championship game. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9. Quickcast is up next.